program here. Special guest tonight, Joe Tanis, coach of the Hart Pirates and also assistant with the Muskegon Ironmen. So great to have you on board, Joe.
Thank you guys for having me out tonight.
Also want to thank, in addition to North Grove, come on out, still plenty of time for you to do that, but also want to thank VanDyk Mortgage and also Shepherd & Shepherd as well for being the sponsors.
Thank you, Joe, for being our guest tonight. And in closing, we want to wish you a happy holiday and drive careful going home tonight. Thank you, folks.
All right, Michael, take the first question at Joe here.
Well, we've got Joe Tanis here, currently the head coach of the Hart Pirates up there. Thank you, Joe, for being our guest tonight. Conference football. In closing, we want to wish you a happy
Joe,
holiday and drive careful going home tonight. Thank you, folks. We got an hour show here. We can talk about a lot of things. Tell us about where you're from, where you grew up, sports you played growing up, and the role your mom and dad played in your life in your development years. Get that microphone up there. There we go, Joe.
That's a great question. So I grew up in Granville, born and raised in Granville my entire life. So I was very blessed to have both my parents in my life my entire time. I grew up in a great neighborhood where we played outside every day with all my friends.
Those days have changed.
Yeah, it was, we would play sports all day and then we would go inside at night and play video games, But I played baseball, football, and basketball growing up. Baseball was my first love, and so I really enjoyed that. When I got into high school, though, I kind of started getting away from some of the sports. I knew I wasn't going to be a great basketball player. I wasn't going to grow much, at 6 foot tall and being a big guy. So I kind of let basketball go, and then I kind of focused on baseball and football. Baseball was my first love, and then I kind of gave up baseball after my sophomore year and focused on football. And I had a new coach come in my sophomore year, Coach Irv Sigler, the third. So I was blessed to have him come into my life at that time. He was a great role model for me.
What were your first impressions of him when you met him?
Just intense. A man of character, good guy. But he had really high standards for us. And he was going to demand the best of us. But we were pretty cutting edge. We had the Nebraska Strength Husker program. Their strength and conditioning coaches came in. We did character education back then and all that kind of stuff. We did the speed mechanics, and we're talking late 90s, early 2000s. So, I was very fortunate. He had GA'd at University of Michigan, so he had been exposed to some really good football. So I was blessed with that. And then my parents, I was just really blessed to have two great parents that just provided unconditional love for me.
Did your father play sports growing up?
I think he played a little bit of baseball in high school. He went to Granville as well. So my mom golfed at Wyoming Rogers. We got a lot of sports and a lot of family members that played sports, but my dad was really into mechanics and cars, and my dad is incredible dealing with anything like that, fixing anything. And I was just all about sports, and that was kind of my thing. And my dad never pushed me to, follow his lead or do any of his stuff. He had his own automotive shop, and he just let me do my own thing and supported me. So, I was just grateful that my parents gave me every opportunity they could, and I just had a really good childhood.
What positions did you play?
So, are you talking football?
Punter, obviously punter, and
no,
point.
No.
And, yeah.
I mainly played the line. My early years, I wasn't very good, so they tried to hide me at safety, So, but as I got older, I got put on the line quite a bit, and pretty much played defensive end, O-line. Yeah.
As far as brothers and sisters?
I have two older sisters. They're 8 and 10 years older than me.
Were they athletic too?
He can't remember. Too much older.
The younger of the two sisters, she played soccer at Granville.
Okay.
But they weren't big into sports.
Yeah.
But my oldest sister, who didn't play any sports, her kids played a lot of sports, have been really good all-state hockey player, all-state competitive cheer, all that kind of stuff, cheered at Central Michigan. So there's been a lot of good athletic genes on that side.
What kind of teams did you have at Granville? I mean, were they playoff teams or?
Yeah, so when I was in 8th grade, we won the state championship. Yeah. I think we're the first West Michigan team to win a Class A state title under Doug Troop. Great coach, great guy. He actually came out and talked to me at Orchard View, talked to some of my teams there, came out and watched some of our practice. So I was blessed to have him as my freshman year, and then so we got into high school. There's high expectations,
Sure.
And my junior year, I think we went 2-7. Didn't have a great year. We had a talented group, but we just couldn't put it together.
Right.
And then going into my senior year, we had a very talented group. We had 2 linebackers that went on to play Division I football, Western Michigan, Josh Behrens. And then we had our other linebacker, Eric Vanderhorst, who went to Northwestern. And then one of our running backs actually went to Western Michigan for a bit. So we had a very talented group. We went 5-4, just snuck into the playoffs. It was right then was that 6-3 gets you in, 5-4. So we were one of the rare 5-4 teams. And then we opened up at Muskegon in the first round of the playoffs at Hackley Fields with Coach Tanis, who was at Jenison our junior year, and he put a pretty good thumping on us to end our season. And so then we got to turn around and face them in the first round of the playoffs, and we came in there and we shocked them and beat them 14-7, and pulled off the big upset before losing in the second round to Rockford.
So back when you were in high school, you were actually, a lot of people don't realize this, you were one of the first people that were ejected for targeting before targeting was even a rule.
That could be true. I don't know.
Joe is the reason that rule came about.
I love it.
As far as after high school, college, talk to us about that journey.
Yeah, then I went to Grand Rapids Community College. Tried to walk on, play football there. Ended up working out with them all spring. Ended up getting cut. There's some really good dudes there, and I wasn't one of them. And so I just knew I wanted to be a part of football still, and I wanted to find a way to do that. At that time, my high school coach, his father, Irv Sigler, was a longtime coach at Belding, who had also, he was a GA at Central Michigan, had a long Hall of Fame career. He ended up taking over at Olivet College, and Olivet was one of the worst teams in, all of, the D3 football, really. I visited there coming out of high school. I was like, yeah, this is not going there. And then he ended up taking over, and I saw him at the state finals, and I went up to him and I said, hey, I want to play football. And a couple weeks later, I was enrolled at Olivet, and that was a great experience for me. So,
hey, well, they've turned out some good athletes over there.
Yeah.
A lot.
And he turned it around, and they said you couldn't run the wing T or the power T offense, and we did it, and we led Division III in rushing, and he had USA Today write-ups, and we had a lot of success under him, and so
Isn't
it was
that
a lot
amazing?
of fun.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yep.
good stuff.
It was.
So obviously when you talk about mentors to get into coaching, obviously he's one of those, right?
Yeah, his son really was kind of the first one that really made me fall in love with it. And then, his dad was just really intense. He knew everybody's name. I think when he was at Belding, he would roll out like 100 kids on the team, but everybody said he knew everybody's name in the school. And he was a great motivator, and he got the best out of people. And at the end of the day, that's your job, to try to get the best out of everybody and make them work together. So, I was really blessed to work for some really good coaches. And I kind of stayed on and hung out for about 3 years, coached with Dominic Lividati, who was our defense coordinator. He took over. He was former head coach at Wayne State. And so they kind of let me hang around. Bob Kubiak let me hang around and learn under those guys. So, you're a young guy, you think you know a lot more than you do, and you're just sitting there just soaking it all in. So it was a great experience.
Now, what was the biggest thing you took away from the change in the coaches to Lividati? Obviously he changed some things over and went his own direction as a coach. What did you pick up from him?
Yeah, I think he was just a great people person as well in his own way, in his own style. He grew up in Detroit, Italian, and he had a very, a confidence about him that I really enjoyed. But I think he really did a good job. The biggest thing that sticks out to me is at the end of practice, he would relate everything back to life and tie it all in, so you could kind of see the big picture. So, I remember one day he talked about, you don't quit a job until you have another job. You're not going to go home and tell your wife, hey, honey, I quit my job now, whatever the case may be.
Right.
So he was able to tie it all in, and I think that kind of makes it relevant, and it kind of resonates a little more.
In terms of after college, then what was your first, I guess, your journey to coaching in high school or getting involved with that?
Yeah, so stayed at Olivet for 3 years. Our last year we won the conference. came back, beat Hope College in the final game of the year. They had the trophy on their sideline ready to give it to them. Announced them as the MIAA champions with about 4.5 minutes left in the game, and we ended up coming back winning it, and then we won the tiebreaker, so we went to the playoffs for the first time in school history. We were rewarded with a trip out to Iowa and played the number 3 team in the nation, but it was a great experience. Sure. I left there, and then Bob Kubiak and Mike Sparks, 2 guys I really admire. Mike Sparks has been a major mentor for me in my career.
Sparks is wound tight.
Yes, very much so.
That guy's wound tight.
Yeah, there's not many guys that can motivate people more than him. His pregame speeches are
I get nervous
legendary.
if he's in the same county with me.
Yeah. So I'm going to see him this Saturday. But he was a huge help to me. He was he was the head coach of the Kalamazoo Explosion arena football team. So he got me involved in that, just kind of helping out, really being a gopher. And so I did that for a year, and then I met Brian Dolph, and he brought me to Galesburg, Augusta to be his defensive coordinator. I was 24 years old, small school defense coordinator, living the life. Spent a year there, and then I got lucky at the National Coaches Clinic. I got an interview, didn't get it, with Randy Ari, who was at Northern Michigan with Bernie Anderson. And about 2 weeks before the season, going into my second year at Galesburg, I got a phone call, and it was Northern, and they had an opening on staff, and they needed somebody to fill it. And so my wife and I took a big pay cut, and we packed everything in our car after we'd been married for just a couple months, and headed up to the UP. And we had a U-Haul. We didn't have a place to live on our drive up there. We had a couple of places we were looking at, and got lucky. My wife went into school next day. They got a parapro job for her to get us started. She was working for a psychology study through Michigan State. It was kind of helping us. So stayed at Northern Michigan for 2 years. Got a chance to work for a lot of great coaches there. Learned a ton, learned how much I didn't know and how far I had to go. But I learned what being a professional is like. I learned what it looks like and all that kind of stuff and the kind of preparation. So left there after 2 years, want to be closer to family, went and joined Mike Sparks down at Napoleon High School. He took that over after leaving Olivet College as a defense coordinator, and I joined his staff. I just wanted to coach with people I like and people I enjoy. Right. That's kind of the thing I value probably the most. And one of my other good friends is there. So spent a year at Napoleon, and then I was lucky enough to get the Orchard View job. Moved over here for 7 years as a head coach at Orchard View, then Ravenna for a year, then Wyoming as the defense coordinator under my high school coach, and now at Hart. So fantastic. A lot of moving, but
when you look back and you say, okay, you put your application for the Muskegon Orchard View job. Yep. What jumped out at you about Orchard View that you said, I like that. I like that job. What caught your attention about that particular job?
Yeah, I think, when you're young, you just want to try to get a head coaching job. You think you know a lot more than you do. You got to get one of those jobs before you can get another one. Right. And I just thought it would be a great opportunity to go there and have some success. They had won a state title 10 years before. Things had changed quite a bit in that 10 years, but I think that was attractive in that aspect. I was a high school football fan. I knew they had the highest scoring offense in state history under John Shillito at that time, and just a lot of things like that. And then I really loved the community. I like the blue-collar kind of community that kind of fits me and what I enjoy. So I relate well with that, so I just really enjoy that. And really the kids kept me there for a long time, just because I love them.
And I know we jumped over this, and I just want to backtrack a quick second. When you were at Olivet, what did you end up getting your degree in?
So I studied history, and then I switched my major about 3 times. So personal fitness and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Nice. Yep. Nice.
We'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and continue on our journey with Coach Joe Tanis. You're watching the Power Hour here on the CatchMark SportsNet.
We'd like to welcome the Stark family.
Hello, this is Dmitry, the Russian hacker. Please disregard the following message from CatchMark Technologies. It will make my life easier. Thank you.
If you own a business today, that business is exposed to digital risk. Data privacy, compliance, and of course, cyber attack risks are just a few that you may need to manage. If you don't have the staff or internal expertise to help mitigate the risks your organization faces, call CatchMark Technologies at 616-384-4616.
You have a lot of choices when it comes to insurance companies, so let me help you narrow them down. Hi, I'm Jenna Potts, your local Farm Bureau insurance specialist with the Durga Insurance Group. We are a company dedicated to serving only Michigan. We know you, we understand you, we protect you. All of us at the Durga Insurance Group live and work right in this area, so we're always nearby. Local agent, local service, and local savings. Come and see us today or visit our website, durgainsuranceGroup.com, to find out more.
And good evening. We are here, John Russell along with Mike Taylor, Joe Tanis, Hart head football coach here with us. Here we are at North Grove Brewers for the Power Hour. Great to have you along. Want to thank again VanDyk Mortgage and Shepherd & Shepherd. Let's take you to Orchard View again. We're jumping around a little bit, but we'll get everything covered here pretty quick. Like you said, you took the program. It had some success in the past, but it had fallen on some down times and kind of transition of coaches and things like that. Now, the thing that's challenging, and Mike talks about this quite a bit too, is you never really had a job inside the school, right? So, yeah. I mean, that in and of itself is a challenge. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was a challenge, and looking back on it now, I can see all the lessons that I learned, from it and going through those challenges. So, some years I subbed in the school, but, I wanted to make sure I could be at everything all the time. Yeah. Certain jobs wouldn't work and stuff like that, but you had to pay the bills. There was a year where I worked at Chastix here in Montague. It used to be, I think I worked 7 days a week. Working third shift and sleeping 3-4 hours a day for about a year and a half. So that kind of took its toll on me. Yeah. But again, a lot of great experiences, great memories from that time. Some of my favorite times in my life. And
that, that is something there that, people tend to think about the coaching part of it and the glamorous part and the Friday night lights and all that type of stuff. But I mean, you're a perfect example of somebody that wanted to pursue a dream. You wanted to coach. And there was a price to pay for that, just in terms of, hey, wherever the job is, I have to go. And you talked about earlier your wife packing up everything along with you and heading up on a mission of faith to go to northern Michigan. You had just been married, like you said. Yep. And boy, that is so important. And a lot of people kind of gloss over that. I mean, not the people that know, but not everybody understands what that is. Yeah. But it is a team when you're talking your family, because all of a sudden it's like, that's a leap of faith, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's, I think when I first met my wife, I kind of told her I wanted to be a football coach, and
she didn't run away right away.
Well, I said, I want to move around. And I'm going to try to move as many places to learn. And
she thought that was a stay-at-home job.
Yeah, she said, yeah, she was all in for that. So I said, all right, then we can date, and go from there. And then really, none of this would be possible without her. She's made so many sacrifices in her own career. Worked different jobs without complaining. She's not working anything in her degree field or anything like that.
I can't wait till you write a book about this, because I got some women that need to read this.
Yeah, I was just very lucky to have her. Ultimate cheerleader, ultimate support person who never makes me feel bad for missing anything, is, always trying to do everything we can for the kids in the program. Right. If you don't have that person at home, it gets really difficult. There's a lot of guys that are a lot better coaches than me, but they don't have that, partner at home. So I'm lucky. That's one of my biggest strengths, is that I come with her and I get that help.
And there's a big difference, and we got to point this out. There's a big difference between being an assistant coach's wife and a head coach's wife, because of all the politics involved in being a head coach, and you're wearing so many different hats. Yep. So being a head coach, you've seen a lot, everything she's gone through. Yeah. So that'd be an interesting book to read too, is how to be a wife of a head football coach.
Yeah, it's it can be very challenging, I'm sure, and Luckily, I'm on the sidelines with a headset on, so I don't really hear any of this stuff. I know we had a great year this year. She didn't have any issues, but there's been challenges, and there's
well,
been
she
some
hasn't
hard
figured
times.
out you're deaf.
Yeah.
You just wait.
Right, exactly. Well, and to kind of get back to the Orchard View deal, where you're not in the building itself, is one of the challenges I would think would be, showing up to practice and having to get caught up on what happened in school that day, be it maybe a discipline problem, or it would seem like you're constantly in a position to be blindsided a little bit, aren't you?
Yeah, I think you set yourself up for that, a little bit. So it does, again, that makes it a challenge. But it really comes down to learn how to manage yourself, because it's real easy to get there and all of a sudden you got 3 guys that tell you, hey, you can't practice today because they're suspended, or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And all of a sudden you got to turn around and face 30 other guys and coach them and lead some other grown men to have a great practice.
Right.
So, it puts you in some tough spots, but, without going through those tough challenges, you can't really get much better. So, it definitely helped me grow as a coach and grow as an individual, as a person, how I manage my emotions and all that kind of stuff. Because, if you get too high and too low, you ride that roller coaster, and you want to find that nice, happy medium. So, it really helped me kind of find myself in there and going through some of those.
In terms of installing an offense and a defense, and again, I'm kind of at Orchard View, and we'll work our way up here, but they had success previous years, won state championship. John Chilito, you told about him. Coach McDonald was there, won a state championship, wing T type of situation. So they were kind of a wing T school, although they dabbled in other things as well.
Yeah.
Where, as you think back, where did you go, and what did you want to? The kids kind of knew that system, or did you want to stay with that, or what were you thinking at that time?
Yeah, well, I think you have to set your coaches up for success too. You got to be able to give them something that they can coach and feel comfortable with. And as a head coach, and at the high school level, especially small ball, you have to be the head. You got to take one side of the ball.
Right.
So I chose defense. Looking back, I would probably choose offense in the future. I took offense at heart this past year.
Right.
Because I think when you score points, people like coming to the games.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a little bit easier there. So I started out kind of running some of the stuff that I knew from the college stuff. In 2012, we were running a lot of power read. We were running a lot of GT, guard tackle, counter stuff that's pretty popular right now. We were kind of ahead on that a little bit at that time. But we didn't execute it very well. We had a lot of challenges. They were coming from a pro-style I formation the year before, and then the year before that they had a different coach. So I was the third coach in 3 years.
Right.
So after about a year or two, my offense coordinator at the time, Larry Porter, who's now the head coach at New Haven on the east side of the state, really wanted to get into the veer and do kind of what Muskegon and Mona Shores were doing, and nobody was really doing it in our conference at that point until we go to it. Then Manistee joins and a bunch of other people at that time running it. But so we were kind of going there to be unique, kind of fit our skill set with some of the option football. And he did a good job with it. And then eventually I got a new offensive coordinator. So again, I wanted to let him kind of coach what he knows. So then we kind of became like a wishbone power team as I handed off the reins there. And then Coach Caleb Brown, he was a great guy, but he was living in Allendale. He was teaching at West Ottawa and then driving to Orchard View. So it just wasn't working. It was, a challenge. So then my last year at Orchard View, I took over the offense. I wanted to coach spread offense. We went to the spread. We were able to have some fun, I think we had 3 freshman quarterbacks in 7 years we started. DeReese Roberson, who ended up transferring to Shores, was in the NFL a little bit this past year. So we had some good guys, and it was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I mean, the thing that is always amazing, too, is how you delegate as a coach. I know that's part of the job and all that type of stuff, but I think there's probably a part, you're type A personality if you're a coach, right? So what is that fine line between wanting to run everything and saying, okay, I'm going to trust this guy to run this, I'm going to take this over? I mean, that's an art in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just a lot of variables that people don't think about when you got a put something together and build it, and you're dealing with people and what their skill sets are as coaches, and you're trying to put them in a position to be successful, and you want them to have fun, and you want them to coach something they like coaching. If you asked me to coach the power T offense, I would hate my life. Like, it's just not my thing. It is, you do this and it's repetition over and over and over. I'm more of a creative individual. I like freedom. I like to be able to have fun with it. And I want my offenses now going forward to be able to portray that. So we moved to, at Hart this year, unbalanced single wing. I thought we had to be different. I had never run it, but I'm having a lot of fun learning it. And we're in the early stages of growing it, but I think we have a lot of things that are going to allow us to have some success. And we put up, a bunch of points this year, set the school record and all that kind of stuff. So for scoring points. So
when you leave Orchard View, what were your thoughts in terms? Obviously, you wanted to stay in coaching, and you did. You went back, put on your assistant coaching hat again, right? Was there a feeling of, I want to get back on this horse again, and I want to be a head coach again, and talk about that process, because now you're going from running a program, from being the man of the program, to kind of taking that step back to being an assistant, and not a lot of people's egos would allow them to do that. So talk about that process for you.
Honestly, it really forced me to do a lot of self-reflection and kind of really see what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go going forward. So I wanted to be strategic in where I went. My first year, I wanted to go somewhere where I knew I was going to have success. People want you to come from a winner, so I wanted to be smart there. I was going to Grand Rapids West Catholic to be assistant there under Joe Highland. Had 3 other friends that were coaching there, great coaches I really respected. I thought we were going to have a power staff with 4 or 5 really good coaches, and that doesn't happen very often at small high school football. So he ended up getting let go about 2 months later for whatever reason, and then I ended up at Ravenna with Doug Samuels. And I had Doug on my MAC All-Star staff as my offense coordinator. When I did that, I was kind of always trying to bring in different guys to kind of see, would I mesh well with him and that kind of stuff. And went and worked for Doug, and I had a blast. Just had a fun year in Ravenna. One of my former assistant coaches from Orchard View was AD at Ravenna at that time, Kyle Jower. So I loved him. And then a bunch of other guys that I coached actually had in the All-Star game went over there. Jeff Brooker he was the head coach at Fremont, came over there, and he's a great coach. I respect him a ton. Latrell Watkins. So a bunch of guys I'd coached with were there. So we had 1 year of just a lot of fun.
You were almost the head coach there.
I
mean, that was close.
It was. And
that was close, but
it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, though. It really was, because that was how I left that. I had a choice. You could either kind of get angry and get a little bitter, or you can say, hey, I can make this the best thing that's ever happened to me. And that's kind of what I was determined to do. And Kyle pushed me to Hart, pushed me to apply at Hart. I wasn't going to do it, I just didn't really know much about it or anything. And I'm so glad he did, because I went up there and I just met a ton of great people. And at the end of the day, it's about people.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you're going up to, and you guys had a great year in Ravenna. And that was, and that was not unlike, that wasn't a program that was solid. I mean, you had to rebuild that. I mean, they had a few down years there too in Ravenna. So you brought the excitement back with that, and that. I know calling your games and all that was part of that. Did that motivate you a little bit? I mean, did that charge you right back up again a little bit?
It did. It definitely did. But it was much needed time to step back, and it was a great opportunity to sit there and watch Doug and see his personality operate and see different ways it was done. I think we're very similar, but we're different people at the same time.
Sure.
So, but our core values kind of align, in that. So. That was a great experience. I loved working for Doug. And then he, did so good. He got the opportunity to go to Comstock Park.
Right.
And he left. And then I ended up going to Wyoming to be the defense coordinator for my high school coach. And I had always wanted to work with him. I said how much he meant to me as a person. And if he truly meant that, I felt it was kind of my time, like, put up or shut up. I need to go work for him. Sure. So still living in Muskegon, driving to Wyoming. Coach there, but again, it was just a lot of fun. Got to meet a bunch of great people, coach against a bunch of great competition, playing Shores in the playoffs, and You know, everybody gets in that year, but Zeeland East got hammered by John Shillito as Zeeland West pounded us embarrassingly. So, you know, it was a lot of fun though.
And then you wind up at Hart. Interesting, like you said, it wasn't necessarily you were seeking that job, but Kyle Jower kind of leads you in that direction. Talk to us about that. Finally, obviously, decision with a wife again about, okay, here we go again. Where do we want to go? Was that kind of how it played out?
Yeah, you know, we're kind of an all-in family. As my wife kind of follows, you know, and is willing to move and do all that kind of stuff. So we said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it the right way. We're going to move up to Hart. Our kids are going to go to Hart, and we're going to immerse ourselves in the community. And so that's what we did. We actually bought our first house, and it's right on campus. So right when you pull into the school, you got to go through the school driveway to get to my driveway. So. You know, it's kind of like a small college a little bit. It's one campus. The elementary school, the preschool, the high school, the middle school, they all share the same parking lot. So I take my 3 kids in the morning. My wife still works in Muskegon. I take my 3 kids, and I got one in the preschool, I got one in the elementary, and I got one in the middle school now. So I get a chance to take all 3 of my kids to school every day.
They can yell out the window and get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just got to yell at you. You know, when you went into and you talked and interviewed at Hart up there, you know, after interviewing for a few coaching jobs and, you know, going through that process and becoming acclimated with the interview process, what were a couple of things up in Hart that you had picked up over and along the way, Joe, that you said, okay, when I go in this interview, you know, these are some things that I think are they're top shelf important in developing a program, things you got to have, you know, what, because again, you know, you're dealing with a school up in Hart that, you know, the structure of football at Oak Ridge and Montague is different than at Hart. Yeah. And now you're getting a chance to interview and say, I'm not asking for anything that our competition doesn't have. Yeah. You know, so how did you approach that interview?
You know, I knew I didn't have to take the job, you know what I mean? So I came in and, you know, there's a little bit of comfort that provides when you can go in and say, hey, you know, if I don't get it, it's not the end of the world. Right. Because when you're younger, you tend to take everything personal, and it is the end of the world. Yeah. They don't like me, or, you know, I'm not good enough, or whatever the case may be. So I think I went in there just comfortable, feeling confident, but I came away, you know, leaving feeling like this place wants to win. This place is starving to win. Our superintendent, who's, you know, been at Oak Ridge and came from there, Mark Platt, and he wants to build a football program that has success there because I think he sees the value that it can affect the entire community. When it's done right, it can make, you know, your community a better place, in my opinion. So, you know, with him, and then our principal at the time was Brandon Bruce, who now is the superintendent at Gwynn. But he played at Central Michigan. He was a football guy. He had taken a team in the UP, I think Rudyard, to the playoffs for the first time in school history. So he knew what it was like to experience that. And then our athletic director, Tim Hertzler, he played at Taylor University. So there's football guys who, in my opinion, understood what it was going to take, understood the value and the importance of it. You know, and we were going to be in this proper perspective. It wasn't going to be the most important thing because you don't ever want it to be about that. It's, you know, about education first. So I just felt like they had a great view of everything, and we shared the same perspective. So that was exciting. They made some, you know, they said they'd get me in the building. They got me in the building. So, you know, it's a little bit different. I'm in there every day. I love it. You get a chance to see the kids. And, yeah, they followed through on everything they said they were going to do. And I'm just really grateful for that.
And you're able to put down, as you said, some roots really for once, right, in a district. So you're invested. Not that you weren't before, but you know what I mean. Hey, you're right there. You're right on campus. Yep. I mean, and the kids are going to school there. So unlike any place maybe where you were before, this is really home, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a small town. You know, growing up, I thought I wanted to live in a big city and all that kind of stuff. And you know, as you get older, your perspective changes. You grow and you change. So. You know, I'm just happy right where we're at. My kids are happy. My kids love it. They've made a ton of friends. So, you know, I got kids staying the night all the time, and my kids are going to other people's houses, and so it's just a lot of fun. It's just a great environment.
We'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and continue on with Joe Tanis. You're watching the Power Hour here on CatchMark SportsNet.
VanDyk Mortgage, we started 1987, July of 1987. The company was founded here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We recruited Mario in to join our company as one of our branches to serve the Muskegon community. He has grown to 5 locations, serving people up and down the lake shore.
A lot of companies, they're sometimes in it more for themselves and closing that deal for just the monetary reward. And I think with Mario and his company, it's not just that, and I don't know if that always happens in our world.
So once I started brewing, I fell in love with the industry, the people of the industry, and just how craft beer brings people together. The community has really accepted us, and really we made this place to create our clubhouse pretty much, where we want to hang out and we have the beers we want to drink and the stuff we want to do, and we really hope that the community would just be of that same mindset and want to come here too and have fun, and they sure have.
And we're back here at the Power Hour. John Russell along with Mike Taylor and Joe Tanis, our special guest today. We're here at North Grove Brewers. I want to thank also VanDyk Mortgage for all of their help with us, and also Shepherd and Shepherd.
So, Coach, last Monday when you went in and turned in your resignation, obviously they didn't accept it, so you're coming back next year.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to be back.
That's good. That's always good to hear. You know, where I want to go a little bit now, and we'll jump into a couple questions, is the future in the West Michigan Conference, okay? And, you know, we talk about this all the time, and I'm sure you as coaches and the conference, with the expansion coming in, you know, I think it's a great thing, okay, what's happening in the conference. And I say that from the standpoint for kids, okay? Kids love the opportunity and just knowing they're going to go into a game, knowing they're going to be competitive. If you can, talk to us a little bit about the conference realignment, where Hart stands, and how your kids feel about it in the community.
Yeah, you know, we're one of 5 schools that have been around since the beginning that's never qualified for the playoffs, since 1975 when they introduced it. So we're one of the last schools kind of hanging on there, trying to get off that list. And I just think you can't turn around a program like Hart or any program that struggled for a long time without a lot of things coming together. And I saw that coming together at Hart with our administration, with the kids we have. We have some talented kids.
And you have a feeder program.
Yeah, yep. And, we got a lot of great coaches in other sports in our building that, and that helps, all that helps. So, and then obviously the new conference. We knew we had 1 year left in the old West Michigan Conference. And we kind of went out last year and we felt like we proved that we can play, and we can play 4 quarters, and we can hit people. And we can, go out and score points and be competitive. Some weeks not as much as others. But, we kind of wanted to have that before going into the new conference, build some of that momentum. And we felt like we were able to do that. So going into the new conference this year, obviously we lose Oak Ridge, Montague, and Whitehall, 3 schools that are, football powers. And we're going to replace them with Holton and Hesperia.
So talk to us about your schedule. You know, who do you open up with?
Yeah, so we're going to open up next year. So we're going to have a couple more non-conference games in the past. So that gives us some freedom. So we're opening up with Fremont at home.
That'll be a great game.
Yep. Then we go to White Cloud, who we played this past year. Then Shelby, a big rivalry game, and then Muskegon Heights. So we were able to keep it local there. And then we go right into North Muskegon, who's got a loaded squad coming. And we go from there to Mason County, Hesperia, Holton, and then finish with Ravenna.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. That's a big change.
Yes, it is.
When your kids look at that schedule and the parents, I mean, they're like, okay, now your numbers start to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how you build a program. I'm not quite sure on the fact that, is this conference alignment, is this subject to change throughout the year? So say your program goes 8-1.
Yep.
Okay. The following year, could you move to that upper tier?
Yeah. I think any kind of decision like that is going to be like a 2-year out kind of deal. I could see that eventually maybe happening. We want to have that kind of success where people want to bump us up.
And that's what I'm saying.
But, you know, I mean, we're going to be a solid Division 6 school. We did a co-op with Walkerville last year, and we were Division 5 because of that, but we're really a smaller enrollment 6. So hopefully we don't get bumped up. I think there's some people that would like to see us, you know, head that way. But, yeah, I just think it's a great situation.
But when you look at and I don't like the new high school playoff format.
Yep.
Okay, when you look at it, it's all based on points and strength of schedule. And so when you look at this new alignment, you know, theoretically you could go 7-2, and because of strength of schedule, you may not make the playoff. And that's why I think the opportunity, once you've got those numbers out and those kids really start understanding your program develops, you know, they gotta have an opportunity to get to that upper tier if playoffs is in, you know, a goal.
Yeah.
And 2, eliminate week 9 and everybody makes the playoff.
Yeah, and you know, initially I was against everybody makes the playoffs, but after talking with one of my good friends who coached down in Indiana for a good number of years, he really changed and shifted his perspective with that, and he really came away liking it. Because if you're at a smaller school and you lose 1 or 2 of your best players and they get hurt for a couple weeks, and you lose a couple of games and now you're done, your season's done, where, you know, these kids can have a chance to come back. You can develop your team to grow and peak for the end of the year. And I think we saw that 2 years ago when I was at Wyoming with the COVID stuff. You know, we were 0 or 1 and something at the end of the year, but our kids were still motivated because there's nothing harder than, you know, coaching week 6, 7, 8, and 9 when you're already knocked out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I had plenty of experience doing that, and that is a challenge.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think there's a lot of value in that. But like you said, we're going to need to win 7 games if we want to guarantee that we're going to make it.
And
next
again,
year,
it's tough to recruit kids, to get kids. It's like asking, okay, who wants to go for a ride in the Titanic? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, when you put your schedule out there and say this is the new conference alignment, okay, maybe some kids can't bench press 300 pounds.
Yep.
But you know what? They can run and they can jump and they can catch and they can throw. We want to play.
Yeah.
Now, they get interested in football. Now you get them in the weight room.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, the thing about Hart is we have a bunch of kids with great work ethics. We got a bunch of kids that work on farms that have difficult physical jobs.
Right.
Like, so the work ethic thing is not there. It's just redirecting that and getting them to commit to each other and work together, you know, to establish that. So that's the challenge, you know. People are like, don't go there, you're not going to win. It's, you know, it's going to be a challenge. And I just think if you kind of take a different perspective of it and look for the positives, there's a bunch of them there, and I'm really excited about those.
You know, we used to say amongst ourselves a little bit was with the way the conference was. I mean, you know, you had the Montagues and the Oak Ridges and Whitehalls, those teams that were banging for it. And then sometimes there would be games that, you know, boy, you'd almost say, well, if you just get off the bus and come back and the tires aren't flat, it's a victory. I mean, to have to kind of build a mentality of you're just going to be outclassed in certain games, that's not a good feeling for anybody. I mean, it's going to happen, obviously. But I think with this new schedule, and as you said, as you read off those teams, I'm thinking, you know, White Cloud's had their struggles here and there. So now you're talking kids that can play football, and they have a realistic chance of getting off the bus and coming away with a win. It's not like lightning has to strike in order for us to win a football game. And I got to think that just has to be huge mentally. It has to keep the kids involved. It has to keep the kids maybe from quitting. It has the kids that are wandering the hallway say, hey, look, I know you're going to see that from this year with the success that you had at Hart. I mean, I think, you win your first 3 games, something like that? And
we started out 2-0.
2-0, okay.
Yeah.
I even branded you an extra game there.
Yeah.
But I mean, the point being, there was not a lot of that in Hart. So that had to be kind of neat from that standpoint of looking at those kids, and all of a sudden they're getting rewarded. The coaching staff's getting rewarded for their hard work. It's not like, you know, the 0-9 syndrome all over again. I mean, that had to pick everybody's spirits up a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the early success really just speeds up the buy-in process and the trust, you know, and that's kind of what it did for us. And it allowed us to carry momentum where we had a 5-week stretch of brutal games that we knew going in.
Right.
But I think you have to if your definition of success is just winning and losing, you have no control over that. As much as our egos and all that stuff we like to think we do, at the end of the day, it's usually the guys who are the better players that are winning the games.
Right.
It's so. I think we had to kind of redefine what success looked like. Our whole culture thing was kind of attack the storm, and to me, that's just about like facing and taking on any challenge that comes our way, and doing it with a good attitude and embracing it. So that's kind of what our kids did. Our kids went out and, we had lost to Montague 75-0 in the playoffs the year before,
right.
And we lost to them 35-0. They still beat us, good, but our kids hit them till the very end.
Yes.
And we did the same thing with Whitehall. They had their starters in late in the game, and we scored on them for the first time, and 8 quarters, I think, were the first team scoring them. But again, you got to kind of redefine success. We celebrated some of the small victories. I don't think that's a loser or a loser mentality. I think it's just a realistic mentality. So we just kind of redefined what success looked like, and that was playing 4 quarters, not giving up, taking care of the football, being aligned, not playing bad football. And we cleaned up a lot of that.
What's going to happen, too, is this playoff format is going to change how athletic directors and head coaches approach scheduling, because you don't want to schedule somebody you're not going to get playoff points with.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to see the stronger teams get stronger because they get playoff points.
Yep.
The teams that are in the middle of the pack, they're going to have a tough time with somebody up here wanting to schedule them or put them on this schedule because they may not get those playoff points for home field advantage or to get in the playoffs or whatever.
Yep.
Okay, that's where I got a problem. This has now become more about the coaches than the kids.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see it just like we had it in the COVID year where, where, we eliminate week 9 and that's our first round of the playoffs and everybody gets in it. And but again, I just don't know, because when you see it develop with the playoff format we have it, Coach, here's the thing I got a problem with too. If you get a kid that's probably a borderline D1, a D2 kid, and he's thinking to himself, I might never have a chance to make the playoffs or play in a Michigan high school playoff game. What does he do? He exercises school of choice.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be challenges with the new playoff format. It's just, there's going to be unintended consequences that are going to kind of show themselves, as the years go on here. I do like that everybody gets in. I think it solves a lot of the, we got to schedule this team and teams trying to duck teams and not play teams and only play certain teams. So, I think if you can eliminate all that, just make it about, going out, competing, being the best you can be, and then getting ready for the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, we're going to celebrate when we make the playoffs for the first time, and it's going to be a big deal. But at some point, making the playoffs is never going to be our goal. It's about winning playoff games and about winning the walnut mittens and winning those trophies and putting them in the trophy case. So the guys that are like, everybody gets a ribbon type stuff, I get it. I understand what you're coming from. I do think, we got some challenges in our culture and our society today, but I don't think that's one of them, and I don't think it has to be that way. I think it can be seen as, hey, it's just the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. Yeah.
When you had your first meeting with this group of kids that you were going to coach, obviously keeping in mind they didn't have success, when you walked away from that meeting, what was your feeling like, and what kind of vibes did you get from the kids?
He was going to have to pay them. It was going to cost Joe a lot of money.
Early on it was kind of a challenge getting some kids to come out. We knew, the summer, when you take over a job, you got to find out what are the biggest challenges to success, and one of ours was our commitment in the off season, specifically summer. I was told kids aren't going to show up in the summer, they all have jobs, and that. So we had to find a way to try to get creative to solve that problem. We took a step in the right direction last summer, and some of the ways we approach trying to doing that. So we just got to continue to identify those problems and continue to attack them.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this past year is we always talk about laying the foundation. Yeah. And I think this group laid the foundation because these are the kids that joined before it was cool to join. It wasn't like you're winning state championships or getting in the playoffs and things like that. These are the kids that decided that, hey, we might not necessarily see the fruits of the victory 3 or 4 years down the line. It's got to start somewhere, and it starts with us. So probably in a lot of ways, this is always going to be kind of a special team for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the first group is always kind of special because you're coming in, you don't really know each other, you're feeling each other out. And I'm so grateful for that group of seniors that we had this past year. We just had a bunch of guys who trusted us, did everything we asked, and laid it all out there, and they were tough kids, man. And they just gave us everything, and it just made it so much fun to coach them. There was zero drama. I didn't have any issues. It was just us going out, having fun every day, trying to be a better version of us the next day.
How many kids do you have out?
So I think they ended the year before they started the year before with 30 on the roster, and I think we got up to about 52 last year at one point. And our goal is to get to 50. We were telling everybody we're going to have a varsity and JV. I didn't know if we'd have a varsity and JV, right up until August. But kept recruiting and that kind of stuff. And, my goal is to have 60 kids on the program for this next year. And I feel like we can have 15 per grade, then we're going to have a solid program. And,
And that's the thing you look at is, we got, when you high school coaches, we look at, well, I've got 11 seniors out. Well, here's my question. How many of those 11 seniors have played 4 years of football?
Yeah, not a lot of them.
You know what I mean? Because maybe they're a senior age-wise, but when you talk about football experience, they're really a sophomore.
Yeah.
With their base knowledge of the game of football. So when you start getting, 13 seniors on the team and 11 of them have played 4 years, now your system's working.
Yeah, I agree. And we're trying to be proactive. Our elementary principal is here tonight, Andrea Deegan. It's awesome to see her here, and she's allowed us to, we had a program that Dean DeVries, one of my assistant coaches, another Granville guy, All-American punter at Hope, and he put together a program. He's our elementary PE teacher, and put together a program called Buck Buddies. So we were down there, our kids were reading once a week, and there's a little bit of pushback when you're trying to put that in always, of course. And our teachers were great about it, and they were great about it, and our kids loved it. Our kids would come to practice and tell us stories, and so we're trying to be really proactive and build it from the lower levels and get those kids excited. And it's important to me, obviously, not just to build a program, but my kids are at that age too. So so it's important for me to start doing that with their friends and trying to get all of them going. So
and when you're talking especially smaller schools, we talk about kids being sports specific sometimes. That seems to be the new thing and all of that. That's kind of the kiss of death for a smaller school especially, isn't it? I mean, you really got to have kids that are going to be football players, they're going to be a part of the wrestling program, baseball team, track, whatever. I mean, you really have to share athletes, don't you?
Yeah, you have to. There's just no way around it. So if you're coming in and you're saying, this is my guy, this is my kid, no, they're our kids. We're sharing them. We're trying to develop them as people year-round. And if I do my job right, all the other programs should benefit. We want it to be to the point where if they played football, they're going to come into whatever program they're on and whatever team, and they're going to be leaders, whether it's a sports team or an academic club or whatever it is. We want our guys, if we're doing things right, we're going to develop young men that are going to be leaders and are going to do things the right way and have a standard. So, you got to share athletes.
What is your feeling about, we see big programs that don't field JV teams. I mean, a few years ago, Grand Haven didn't have a JV team. I think Puffer, I don't know if they even had a JV team last year. Now they got Cody over there. Maybe things will change a little bit. But even like bigger schools haven't. The numbers are just, I guess you can philosophize about why things are like they are, different times, whatever. But overall, how do you see the future of football or sports in general? Are you? I'm assuming you're optimistic because you're here talking about it, but just kind of your feelings on that.
Yeah, really I'm uncertain on what it's going to look like down the road in 10 years. I think coaches are going to have to evolve and change, and it can't just be my way or the highway. It can't be, this is my program and we're just here to win games. You got to make it something that kids want to come out and be a part of, and they got to understand that they're getting some value out of it, just more than playing a couple of games, So as coaches, you got to find ways to make it exciting, make it fun. We try to have fun. It's serious, and we're going to work hard and do everything we can. But at the end of the day, it's a game. And you know, it's easy to lose perspective of that and kind of make it something that it's not. You know, like I'm not getting a $100 million bonus. We go to the playoffs next year.
Well, sometimes your biggest opponents aren't who you play on Friday night.
It's ourselves, right?
You know, I mean, it's you're getting hit from all directions with different situations, problems, and you know, you're coming into a school that, you know, when you talk about tradition of heart, well, in the last 10 years, you'd have to really say that wrestling program up there's, you know, they've done a tremendous job of that program. You know, a couple of the cross-country teams and the tradition they have, when, you know, and now you're starting to get the numbers, Joe, and obviously that's a direct reflection upon you and your staff, that those kids, they want to play for you. They have a good time being around you.
Yeah, you know, we take a lot of pride in that. And I don't know any other way to get kids out. You know what I mean? I just think that's the way it's got to be done. And so that's my style, my philosophy. Going to continue to try to do it. But like you said, I'm blessed to have a great staff. Dean DeVries, who's in the elementary PE. Ken Kimes, who's our varsity boys track coach, and he's in our middle school. Sergeant Dan Thomas, who is state police. Then we have Shane Tate, famous Tate family in Hart, and he's part of it. We have Jacob Tumley, one of my former players at Orchard View, who's one of the up-and-coming, you know, better young coaches, in my opinion, around statewide. And then we had Coach Stephen Beckholt, who's a Hart legend, who coached at Michigan State under George Perlis and coached with Nick Saban. And we had him with our program for the summer, and he kind of really kick-started everything, provided a lot of energy, a little bit of toughness. He ended up breaking his femur in 3 spots our first week of practice. So we ended up losing our O-line coach, you know, a week before our first game. So we had a shift, and next thing you know, our All-American punter's coaching the O-line for the first time. And, you know, so we had a lot of challenges, but we had a lot of fun. I got lucky to get a great group of guys right off the bat, because usually in your first staff, you're going to have a few misses, and you're going to have to readjust, and we're not going to have any readjusting. We may add some more guys on, but I don't think we're going to lose any of those.
Fantastic.
You see yourself, you know, as you grow and develop in the community there. My quick question is, do you see yourself coaching multiple sports down the line?
I don't know. You know, maybe at some point when I get into a groove a little bit. At the end of the day, I want to be a great father. You know, and if it's going to take away from that,
Joe, we're getting older. We don't have. You're in the groove.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm trying to work into that groove, but you know, I would love to. We've helped coach my wife and I.
You know, that's good, Billy.
So my wife played softball in college, was a 4-year starter. So we love softball. Got 2 daughters. You know, they'll be coming through. I got 1 son. He loves video games, so I don't know if he'll play any sports, but. If I get an opportunity to coach them or help or their age group, wherever I'm needed, you know, as long as I can still be a good dad, that's kind of the thing.
I mean, you look down the road and say, okay, you know, maybe I'll be the AD. Maybe, you know, I mean, you never know how things change up at Hart or the schools, and you know, they may surprise you and say, hey, look, we'd like you to be assistant AD, or you know, fall into some role, or. You know, ask you, hey, you know, the kids like you, we'd like you to get involved coaching some other sports, you know?
Yeah, you know, I'm open to a lot of things. I don't ever want to be the AD. That sounds like a lot of terrible work. I'd rather just coach football, you know? So I appreciate my athletic director, who does a great job. And I got a great principal. We got lucky our principal left. I was nervous. And then we ended up getting Troy Moran from Montague, which I think was a huge get for us. He brings a lot of energy. I love his culture. I just love the way he interacts with people. So, you know, we're just really lucky.
And Hart is doing a very good job of improving upon their facilities.
Yeah.
You know, and the quality of their facilities. I've noticed that.
Yep. Yeah, you know, I think overall as an athletic program and department, going to the new conference and with the people we have in place, I think the whole school is moving in the right direction. I think it's just a great time to be a Pirate, honestly.
Fantastic. Well, that's a high note to end on here as we see the clock on the wall strike the witching hour. So that's fantastic. Thanks, Joe, for stopping by, and continued good luck. I know you'll do well, and it just sounds like you got things going up there in Hart. I know we were impressed. The games that we watched you. We had you over at Ravenna doing that game, and that was a dog fight.
Yeah.
And in this new conference where, you know, obviously the challenges here and there, but I think you're on the right path, and we look forward to many years.
I appreciate it. I'm just grateful you guys gave me a chance to come on, kind of talk some football, and hi to all my players that are watching. Trenton Swihart, I appreciate you watching, and my wife and mom and kids, so I just want to say that.
Well, in the West Michigan Conference, it'll happen soon. The NFL has the Lombardi Award, and the championship in high school football in all divisions will soon be the Tanis Award. So that's where I see this whole thing going.
I don't know about that.
It'll
Last
happen.
award I won was at the fifth grade.
Billy. It'll happen.
Hey, thanks a lot, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
And that is going to do it for us for another week here on the Power Hour. I want to thank Bill Mann, our fine producer, for keeping us in line, and we certainly want to thank the good folks here for providing us a home at North Grove Brewers, and of course VanDyk Mortgage and Shepherd & Shepherd. I'm John Russell. He's Mike Taylor.
You got a good one up in Hart with Joe Tanis.
And he's Joe Tanis. Have yourself a good night, everybody.
Hey, did you hear? CatchMark offers digital media services. CatchMark Web Services offers website and media content to help grow your business. Our web service team can help you design, develop, and implement custom websites that are search engine optimized. We also produce videos and media presentations that engage and communicate with your target audiences. We define, develop, and execute the most efficient plan to reach your audience. Shoot us a call at 616-384-4616, visit our website at catchmarkit.com, or stop into one of our offices in Grand Rapids or Whitehall.